Let's talk about this video. Did you guys see it? You know how I think I know how most people feel. I think there's only like a few contrarians maybe, but I think the vast majority of people agree. Where Daigo says why it's hard for Japanese pro players to attend overseas events. And he talks about the Pro Tour, he talks about money a little bit. Daigo sounds smarter with glasses. I like Daigo with glasses, I'm with you. And he basically is talking about the old format and says like, oh yeah, if it was like the events before where there was points and stuff, like the old CPT system, you know, I would have pulled up and like a lot of Japanese players would have pulled up, but right now there's like not a lot of incentive to do it. And he mentions like maybe it killed interest before because all the tournaments used to just be X amount of Japanese players like beating everybody, and like there were just so many Japanese players in Capcom Cup every single year, and like maybe it's a little bit more boring. So it's fun to have players from all over the world to root for, so you can root for your own location. But I don't know that I think it's more hype, the idea of putting players from all the regions in the world, but excluding strong players from the event because they happen to live in a strong region, right? Even though it's a worldwide circuit that like collaborates and connects more locations than ever, feels maybe the most isolated of any of the international tours before it. I don't know if you guys have looked at brackets for things like ECT, or if you looked at brackets for UFA or like the other events that have happened offline. Cream City Convergence was a Capcom Pro Tour premier event, and Daigo went. He was like the only Japanese player that went to a tournament. Could you imagine in the Capcom Pro Tour era from 2017 or 16 to the end of 2019 into early 2020, could you imagine hosting a CPT Premier event in North America and one Japanese player came? And there are other reasons, like, yeah, I mean, sure, the yen is weak and like it's expensive to travel and people have content and other things to do. But if the tour was like how the old tour is, I think you would see a lot more of this travel even still. Maybe you can make an argument for Capcom Cup Finals itself to feel truly worldwide, which I think makes sense because there's a lot of value in having that. But the tour itself feels way less international because of how it is right now. Instead of it being like, this is a worldwide tour where everybody does stuff all under one roof and it's like good vibes, it's everybody goes and qualifies in like little pockets in their region, and then you meet up for Capcom Cup briefly and then you dissipate. 11 and a half months of the year, basically, you are getting regional matchups only. You watch TNS and like all of the North American tournaments, and then our big North American and CPT qualifier tournaments just feel like watching that but offline instead of online. The same players play against each other, right? Like when I watch SFL Japan, I'm watching the same matches that happen in World Warrior Japan. I'm watching the same matches that will happen at like the CPT Premier in Japan. You don't get to see the mix and match of players from all kinds of different regions play against each other. And because it's so fragmented, it's very hard to follow the 40 regions on the planet or whatever you're supposed to follow, like 20 whatever regions. And everything feels like, well, I'll pay attention to the World Warriors in my region, and then I'll watch like the CPT premieres when they happen if I remember they're on, but like they don't matter as much to me unless they're in my region probably. And that's kind of it. In older CPT events with how the format is, players from all over the world are going to travel there, and there's going to be like 20, 30 Japanese players or something, right? And there's going to be tons of players from everywhere traveling to try to like get these points and get these slots. The old CPT format was really straightforward. You win at events or do well at events, you gain points. If you don't do well, you don't gain points. You travel all over the world and that's it, right? Like it was one of those. And like obviously that kind of a style of a circuit and format is better for some people than others, but like the best players have to travel and go everywhere. It does cost a lot of money to travel. So if you're not on a team. The other thing is, a lot of teams that I have talked to are not as interested in picking up a Street Fighter player because you can sign Punk. He is the most valuable player to get, so he's probably the most expensive player to sign in all of North America, and he did not make it to Capcom Cup last year. If Punk can't get into Capcom Cup because his region is really stacked, what are we doing here? Like, what's going on, right? Like, he's obviously a player that is at that caliber. Like, he was 3rd or 4th at last year's EVO. He won this year's EVO. Like, his results in the game are incredibly good. He's like clearly one of the best players in the world, I think, in the first year of the game and also in the second. Why would a team be incentivized to invest in a player who's going to participate in the CPT if the odds of winning are like, you have to win one of these 8 events for the year or whatever it is, right? Like, I guess it's 6 plus 2 super premieres, but I know a lot of teams who have been like, what do I gain? Like, how do I get this person into Capcom Cup? Like, I'd pay for them for the whole year. Their chances of winning are like not that high, and there's not that much to send them to. You have to win one of those events, otherwise that's it, right? Most people understand that like winning every event is really hard. You're not going to win every single event, and you should reward people for traveling and participating in the events. It also boosts the ecosystem. Like the grassroots events that partner up with things like Capcom Pro Tour or Tekken World Tour
Sajam fan
gain benefit from having the extra X amount of players come and participate in the tournament. Whereas right now, like You can just stay at home and play in your World Warrior. And they all make way more money playing in SFL than they do traveling and doing anything else anyway. Like, this is a Japan thing. Have you seen the viewership in Japan for Street Fighter? It's insane. They have 4, 5, 6,000 concurrent viewer streamers all the time who are live every single night. I mean, they have more viewers than Daigo. Daigo's like 2,500 or 3,000 usually, and like there's a bunch of players who have more, which is wild. Japanese SFL is super good. They have people play online every week. They do like a live production for it every week. It's like really cool. The problem is we're not allowed to watch or share content around SFL Japan. SFL Japan does not allow you to make content or restream or rewatch or do anything with their content. And the prize pool for that's good, and they can just play in their own World Warrior, play in their own events. They don't have to leave. The tour doesn't really incentivize travel that much. You have to literally win the event. Remember this happened with Chris Wong last year, right? He went to a tournament, he got second place at one, he gets second place in his World Warrior, he gets like, you only qualify if you win. It's not like a merit-based, points-based system. It's only the winner of that day. Whereas in older things where you got points for participating, if you got second at 3 premieres, then like you'd be in Capcom Cup based on points alone. NA and EUSFL, I really don't think people care about to the same extent. The team format for SFL should be incredibly exciting. The problem is it's not live here. By the end of SFL US, you're watching matches that are like 2 months old. And all of those players playing in TNS like this week are having more updated, newer versions of the matches you'll be watching like 2 months from now. USSFL being pre-recorded means that the team is actually only together for like 5 days or 4 days. And like their day is wake up, film SFL, go to bed. Wake up, film SFL, go to bed. You don't really have a lot of time to actually be with your team and like hang out and like create strategies and like improve. Like it's really just you and these people are crammed together and you play all day and then you leave. Like that's the whole show. Team events are fun when the team gets to actually hang out together and like improve together and get better together. And they're like, yo, trust me, bro, I got this. We've been training together, right? Like they get to improve and get better over time versus doing it that way. You should just do it live. SFL Japan is live. They play the matches online live every single week. By the team engaging together like that over an actual 8-week period or something, you get to see the improvement and the teams like working together. If they did SFL US exactly like Japan, that shit would be hype. I'd be watching every week. His point about that, sorry to get back to it, is like basically the problem is if the tournament is like the players who have the income to travel and who are the strongest, you'd have it like old CPT where like there's 32 slots in the event and 16 of them are Japanese. If you think about a list of like the top 100 players in the world, Japan probably has the most of that spread. Maybe they don't want that. Maybe they just don't want Japan to dominate. If it's all Japanese players from start to finish because Japan's really strong and we dominate, I don't think people would be interested. I think it's the opposite because like worldwide, many of the Japanese players are super famous and popular and people like watching them play, right? As an example, like last year's CPT, was it more interesting because like Punk wasn't there? Or like, was it more interesting because Momochi and Bonchan and Tokido and Daigo and like, you know, all these like Kakadu was struggling to qualify? And is the event more interesting for not having all these players in it and like having a worldwide spread of players? I don't think so. If the 32 best players in the world are 32 players from a country that I don't live in, I am perfectly fine watching 32 people participate and play the best Street Fighter ever because all I care about, the only language that matters to me is Street Fighter. So I'm trying to watch the 32 best players. I don't need to speak Japanese to be like, damn, that whip punish was tight. And like, I don't need to speak Japanese to think Momochi's dream combo is cool. You know what I mean? Like, I think if you think about the current tour versus the old tours from 2016, 17, 18, 19, which people were more excited about, this current version of the tour, it seems like nobody really cares that much about it. They participate, but like they kind of like begrudgingly trudge through it and then that's it. It's cool that you get to represent the entire world, but I think most people just want to watch the best possible play. Feeling like you're not getting that also hurts, I think, the excitement of the event itself. It also hurts, I think, the entire tour because most people really don't care about the current CPT for most of the year. It really feels like they're torn between these two ideas, and their tour, I think, sort of reflects it. They're trying to make a tour that feels worldwide, but I think they're making it feel really pulled apart. I really wish there's fewer regional qualifications, but they still existed everywhere. And then the majority of the tour was a points-based, collaborative, premier offline bracket.